Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. Today my guest is Kimberly Isherwood, and Kimberly is an advocate for the protection of children, as we all are and should be. And today she's going to discuss things like the sexualization of children, especially when it comes to the education system. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we're going to go into. So let's crack on and get into it. Without further ado, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for having me. Deeply appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. So, what do you know?
What don't I know?
Yeah, that's probably
So, shall we just start at the beginning? I think that's a good place to start.
Yep.
For myself, this started in 2013. An article came online claiming that the World Health Organization were teaching 4-year-olds about masturbation. So there was a bit of uproar on social media, as you can imagine, but there was a lot of people saying it was Jewish propaganda because the URL for this particular article was Israel 365. I remember it like it was yesterday because I was so shocked. I actually, when investigating this, I found a document, and yeah, masturbation, well, it wasn't exactly for 4-year-olds. It was from age 0 to 4. So that's where it actually starts from. You know, it's age 0 to 4, so birth upwards. I'm a qualified criminologist, so I specialize in child sex abuse, institutional sex abuse, abuse in schools and care homes and things like that. I've got that passion from the Youth Offenders Institute. So I was a bit naive to begin with, and I thought, who is saying this stuff that children can masturbate, you know, from such a young age? I went looking. I found some studies which absolutely horrified me. So I came across The Sexual Behavior of the Human Male, which is a book written by Alfred Kinsey, Wardell Pomeroy, and some other man. And within this book, they claim this book is research on homosexuality. It's not research on homosexuality. This book was exposed many years ago. It was actually, they was interviewing rapists and pedophiles. Chapter 5 of this book speaks of the sexual behavior of the adolescent. And you look at the tables, the children in this book start from 2 months old. So the children were actually assaulted and raped for what they claim is research to claim that we are sexual from birth. So that's a theory we've got running through this education. It's sexual from birth, the gender ideology and queer theory. But I'll go into those in just a minute. So I knew this stuff was true anyway. I was absolutely horrified. Like everybody else in the UK probably thought it's the crazy Yanks. You know, we do think that, we think that they're a little bit over the top with things, and we think it's just there. So 2020, an article came online claiming Welsh Government was introducing sex education from age 3 to 16 with no parental opt-out. Now, people need to understand that I know the importance of a good sexual safeguarding education. So I'm the biggest promoter of this, you know, the biggest promoter of children's rights. So for me to be sat here saying this is wrong, this is completely out of character, you know? So this article came online and my stomach just dropped. I knew, I just had a feeling that this was not right. I went to the Welsh Government documents, and on page 4, I found reference to this global sex education. And to be honest with you, again, being naive, I thought the Welsh Government had made a mistake. I thought Kirsty Williams had made a mistake. I thought, you know, she's been sold this, you know, for thinking that it's good, tried to reach out, and it fell on deaf ears. So we've started a group with 400 people, started emailing, we were laughed at, we were mocked. We did a petition again, we were mocked on that. The government changed the goalposts on that. That's another saga in itself. We ended up in court. My statement for court was proven. This is not Wales' problem. This is not a Welsh problem. It's all 4 countries of the UK, and they all adopted this in March 2017. So there's a document on our website published by International Planned Parenthood Federation, which states clearly it's all 4 countries of the UK. And they used this guidance, the World Health Organization guidance, to persuade decision makers. So there was people in select committees, public office, and health professionals. It's their words, not mine. Okay, all this documentation is online. So we've gone into court against the Welsh Government, trying to reclaim our parental rights, our parental opt-out. And the Welsh Government successfully argued that parents' rights do not exist. So parents' rights are not a thing. We only have parental responsibility. This was the highest profile case in the UK that was actively buried by the media. And the reason why it was buried is because we had proven, this is global, we had proven, this is all 4 countries of the UK, and the Welsh Government had proven parental rights do not exist. So here we are in this situation now. All 4 countries have adopted this sex education with the view for legislative changes. So we're all at different stages of this. We've seen the Scottish Government put out 100 lesson plans, starting from age 3 upwards, introducing porn, the correct terminology for the body parts, and there's a bit of a debate out there whether this safeguards or not. It doesn't. I've got the research from the NSPCC, by the way, but that's another story for another day.
Just quickly, is this porn as in the porn that you think of when the word porn comes up?
Yes.
Or is this porn as in cartoon images that mimic?
Well, porn is porn. So that's a really good point there when you say cartoon images. So there was a woman who actually exposed Alfred Kinsey on this book, and her name is Judith Reisman, Dr. Judith Reisman. She's done a lot of work in America. She's very, very well-established academic. She recently passed away. She did a lot of work for the American government on the Playboy magazines, and she did a fantastic piece on the cartoons, the animations, because the animations are more damaging than actually the porn, because it's the animations that attract the children's attention. It's the animations that actually desensitize the adult male from these sexual acts. I'll give you an example. One of the Playboy magazines, they would have cartoons in the corner, and one of these cartoons was Santa raping a baby. So even if it's animations, that is not child-friendly because the damage is still there. So, you know, we've even seen there was one video that came out of a school where there was a robot. He had a massive penis. There was another robot being spun on his penis, being bounced on his penis. And a lot of the public thought that was funny, you know, but again, that is desensitization. There's a psychological impact.
I suppose that's probably part in, you know, with help with videos growing up in the 80s, you had like Viz and all those kind of things. So for parents of our age, not that I would view it as funny, but as parents our age, like 40 to 50, they would link that image of like Viz, finding it funny, but not realizing the implications of what that's having on the younger kids.
Well, this is it. And I think this is something that the teachers need to be made aware of as well, because if the teachers were properly trained on this and they were properly educated, they would not allow this into the classroom at all. You know, the danger with what they are teaching. So, you know, there's a PowerPoint. You can access Scottish Government's references. Honestly, you've got the lesson plan, you've got the lesson resources, you've got the props, it's all there to look at. So when you actually look at these PowerPoints themselves as well, they've discussed porn. And what they say is it's illegal to access porn unless you're 18 and it's okay in moderation. Porn causes brain damage. Porn does more damage to the brain than crack cocaine. And there's studies being done in Oxford University, lots of studies done on the impact of the brain. Severe brain damage desensitizes you to sex. You've got to have more. You've got to have dirtier sex. You've got to have rougher sex because it's desensitizing you, you know? And you know what it's like on the internet? One genre of porn moves into another and another. And this is, you know, we do offenders this way.
So there is I suppose you could reference it like drugs in that respect, where you know, you have your first hit or whatever it is that you're taking, and it's but then the next time around you need double the dose because you haven't got the same effect, and it just progressively gets worse.
That's exactly what it is. And I think it's important to point out here that we are not actually against the teaching of sex education or anything they claim to
but
teach.
It's how it's done.
But they are not teaching the truth. They're not teaching the facts. They're not teaching the dangers of porn. How many men out there know that it actually causes brain damage? It actually damages your brain. How many people out there know that? I didn't know that until recently. So I've changed a lot in the last 4 years because of my research. Because at face value, yes, children should be taught the dangers of porn. They're not being taught the dangers of porn. They're just being told that you shouldn't access it until you're 18. Yeah. And there's videos on masturbation. There's bondage. We've seen stuff coming out of Parliament where there's lessons on how to choke your partner safely. This is serious stuff.
It is serious.
Very serious. I'm a child from the streets, so I was homeless on and off from 14 to 21, and I was in a youth offenders institute. There is nothing too hot or too heavy for me. So if I'm saying this is serious, I think that's probably why the government are running scared, because people like me shouldn't really be seeing this as serious. But it is. It's deadly serious. It's damaging our children. Our children are being taught about anal sex. They're not being taught the dangers of it. They're not being taught the risks. They're being taught anal sex prevents you from getting pregnant.
So they're spitting it, basically.
This is what's happening here, And people are saying, well, children will do it anyway. Children will do it anyway. Will they really? Because if
if they're coaxed into doing so.
I've spoken to teenagers in the streets, and I've discussed this stuff with them. And there was one footage that we had from 12-year-olds. They were putting condoms onto adult-size dildos in a classroom, okay? So if this was for teenagers, this stuff doesn't fit for a start. You've got adult-size dildos in a classroom, and teaching children to put the condoms on. So I spoke to these teenage boys. They were late teen. Wouldn't speak to anyone under the age of 18, that's for sure. And I spoke to them and I said, boys, tell me, what do you think about this? I said, let's be honest here now. I said, is this appropriate for your anatomy at the time? He said, no. He said, but I told my friends it was. And the other one said, yeah, I smacked my mate across the head with it. Do you know what I mean? These things aren't even being taken.
They find it embarrassing above anything else, don't they?
They do find it embarrassing. The 12-year-olds that were forced in, and I'm saying forced because I was sent this video from a 12-year-old. He was forced to take part in that lesson. And when he said, I feel traumatized, they said, tough, you've got to do it.
Which is wrong.
Teachers are legislated to teach this stuff. It's coming from third-party organizations who are not regulated. You look into the people who work there as well. They're all very questionable characters. Nobody will have an open debate with you. Nobody will have an open discussion with you because this stuff massively does not safeguard. It's introducing our children to sexual activities, making them believe that they're ready for it. So I'll give you another example. On that same video for the 12-year-olds, I was here in my living room, and my youngest son was 12 at the time. And I thought, shall I, shan't I? Shall I, shan't I? And I said, come and have a look at this, I said, this is your group. I said, would you feel comfortable doing that in the class? That's illegal, he said. I said, no, because my children know. Do you know what I mean? It's illegal. It's grooming,
See, I remember when I was in high school and we would have these horrible sex education lessons, it was always on the end of a broomstick or something.
Well,
it was never anything as graphical as a dildo.
If you think about it, so sex education came out just slightly around the time that I left school, 1999, and there was they were putting condoms onto cucumbers, so that was like the 15 and 16-year-olds. Then we had the 13 and 14-year-olds putting condoms onto other things. Now we've got the 12-year-olds putting condoms onto these dildos that are being sent to the schools. And when I said when my son said, that's illegal. He said, you're not supposed to have sex till you're 18. I said, actually, boy, you're 16. He said, oh, well, maybe you should learn that when you're 15 then. So, do you know what I mean? My son was not interested in anything like that. He's the type of child as well that he would not want to offend the teacher. He would not want to upset the teacher by walking out. So that's why he had to come out of school. My eldest boy is completely different. If this was happening when he was there, you've seen the videos that children are putting online where the teachers are giving him a row and things like that. That would be my son filming, but he would have already emailed me and I'd be walking in the hall. My eldest son would have been on that kind of behavior. he's well aware, he's well aware of what's right and what's wrong, And but like I said, my youngest boy, again, they're both raised exactly the same. However, two completely different children. He would have watched all this stuff. He would have learned all of this stuff. It would have been introduced to him at a time he wasn't ready. And again, my two boys are completely different. I had talks with the oldest boy a lot younger than I did with the younger boy, because they develop at different stages. However, the older boy is the one with the additional needs. Can you hear what I'm saying? This needs to be developmentally appropriate, and only a parent knows if their child is developmentally ready for it. They say in the schools, no, if a child is developmentally ready, well, where's the assessment tool that you use then to define that? Because they don't know what's going on at home neither, you see.
That is shocking. I mean, it wasn't, I was reading or I heard that a lot of parents wanted to know what the materials were that they were being shown in these sex lessons, or sex education lessons, sorry. But because of copyright, they weren't allowed to be shown it.
So this is the wonderful loophole they have. So you would have seen the Prime Minister saying that they need to share resources with teachers. You would have seen the First Minister and the Education Minister in Wales saying schools should be transparent and share their resources. It's not their resources. It's not their resources, it's somebody else's. So that's where the copyright comes in, you see. And we do have some parents who go in every half a term to view the stuff for the following part of the term. But again, it's just, they just sent out links so they cannot access stuff that they need to look at and they've got to take back in, so they'll say things like, oh, there's a song to be played. Well, what is that song? So a parent went in the other day and asked, well, what is this song you're going to be playing? His son is mentally disabled. So it was an alphabet song, and it was S for secrets. S for secrets. This child has just been taught confidentiality a couple of weeks before. He doesnn't even eat. Do you know what I mean? He's got his psychological issues are so severe that he's just stopped eating, and he's tube fed through his stomach. And this child has been taught confidentiality, and now he doesn't tell his mum anything when he goes home. And these type of children are 4 times more likely to be abused. And now that child has been ordered not to say anything at home because it's confidentiality. But it's okay because he misunderstood it. It's okay.
It's a psyops, really.
He misunderstood it. Of course he misunderstood it. The word in itself, confidentiality. You show me a 5-year-old that's ready to learn about that word. Let alone a mentally disabled 5-year-old. But there is no boundaries here. Nothing is out of bounds. And that is a quote from a professor in Cardiff University. Nothing is out of bounds.
That's disgusting.
It really is. It's horrific, and I've seen stuff on social media. People say, "Oh, Wales need to get their act together. They need to get on top of this." We have
just Wales together.
We've got all 22 local authorities fighting in WhatsApp groups. We've been completely shut down. Local authority preventing me from working with families that I've been doing for the last 17 years. The reason that the people don't know about it is because the media won't tell you. And it's already happened in your countries. It happened in your countries first with the lesson content. So it's a lesson content in other countries, and it was a legislation here. And they used case law from around Europe to argue parental rights do not exist. That case law can and will be used against the rest of the UK. Parental rights do not exist. But our children have something called sexual and reproductive rights. You see? So children's rights are promoted massively. They law here in Wales, they also law in Scotland. But they also have sexual and reproductive rights. So when your child is born, there are no parental rights, only parental responsibility. There are sexual and reproductive rights for our baby, mind. And part of these sexual and reproductive rights mean the state could administer medication to your child without consent. In America, that's been hormone blockers. So, it's very, very serious. And like I said, I've always been a promoter of children's rights. And you can look at my Twitter bio of changing out the children's rights used right. Because what we're witnessing right now are children are being empowered beyond capacity with false information for an ideology. It's a political ideology. That's what's going on here. This is a political movement. This is not representative.
And
of
this
the population.
this ties in with the LGBTQXYZ, whatever the bloody words that follow it, letters that follow it after. It's sinister.
It is very, very sinister.
What age would you say would be a good age, or an appropriate age for younger people to? Because I don't even want to say kids, because I think just the word kids alone means they're too young. So I'm at the opinion of 14 to 16 is probably more of an appropriate age where this can be taught. But anything below that, because if I'm right in thinking, the government are now saying that no children under the age of 9 are going to be taught it. But
yeah, that's another issue. So if you look into that in itself, we're talking guidance, okay? So they say no child under the age of 9 is to be taught this sex education. But when you guidance can change overnight for a start. The Prime Minister did say this time last year that he was going to scrap sex education. So it says that they are not teaching sex education to children under the age of 9. It can be debated and argued and changed at any time because it's only guidance for a start. Then it goes on to say it's only in England. Then it goes on to say they're already politically charged by this and they're already going to debate against it anyway. So if this did go ahead and they stop sex education for age 9 and under, when you actually look at the guidance, age 9 starts with sexual intercourse. So what are we actually, so they've gone from the global guidance starts with sexual intercourse from age 9. So
they've gone from the birds and the bees to
this is not
straight
age.
in.
This is not age. This is not about age. This is about appropriateness. I don't think, the thing is, we have to teach children about child sex abuse. Nobody wants to, but we have to, okay, to safeguard them. That should start from as soon as the child can communicate. Private's a private. Nobody to look, touch, or talk about your privacy. It's as simple as that. We also have to teach children about groomers as well. Some people pretend to be nice, but they can do bad things here. So that should start very early on. The communication should be there. If anybody looks, touches, or talks about your privates, raise the alarm. They don't need to know the correct terminology for their private parts, because by knowing the correct terminology for their private parts means they can engage confidently in conversation about their genitalia, and predators see that as consent. You see, so whatever name you use for your child's body part should always stay private. So there will be close family members that will know about it. And there is a story that keeps coming up. A child went to a teacher and said, my uncle licked my cookie. Well, that's for the teacher then to investigate. Any good academic out there, or any good professional out there interviewing a child for child sex abuse will ask, what is the name they use for their genitalia? So from as young as possible, privates are private. And there are some people out there who pretend to be good, but they're actually bad. They also need to know as well that an adult is groomed before a child is groomed, because we are won over first. So those things need to be reinforced at a very, very young age, even though we shouldn't have to, but we do need to, okay? Because institutions are full of sex abusers as well. Then obviously we've got biology. Biology can come, at the end of primary school in separate groups, because we have separate anatomies, and as for this born in the wrong body, it doesn't exist. It's a load of crap. Let's forget that. None of us are sexual from birth. And as for this queer theory, again, that was written by a load of academics who believe children and adults are equal in every which way, including sexual activities. So, this is not about what age they should be taught. It's about what they're actually being taught. Risks and consequences of, we're being told that this is for inclusion and for same-sex relationships and things like that. Well, if this wasn't about sex and only about those relationships, what's different about those relationships? There's only one difference. That's the way we have sex. So how can you discuss different relationships if you're not going to explore how they have sex? Children will ask questions. So this relationships thing, that again, if they were teaching about relationships, they would be teaching one very important thing. Red hopping and promiscuous behavior damages long-term relationships. That's what they should be teaching, not teaching about pleasure, introducing children to sex, introducing them to bondage and how to choke your partner safely. So I don't think there should be a universal age for teaching this. Sexual safeguarding from as soon as the children can understand. Biology at the end of primary school, and then we tailor things. There should be groups coming in on activity days so the children can go to different sections, the children can look into. We don't take things to them. We need to provide when they come to us, and that's how we do it. That's what I mean. I'm not going to say an age that sex education could start, because sex education is such a broad term for all of these unethical, unscientific ideologies. We need to see it for what it is: sexual safeguarding, biology, and then as they get older, risks and consequences. Risks of consent, not how to consent, risks of consent, consequences of consent, And I'm an RSE teacher trainer now. I've got my accreditation in that. I would love to be out there delivering this stuff myself, but nobody will speak to me and nobody will discuss what we have to say.
It's shocking, isn't it? I mean, for me, sex education really should be about procreation. So two loving people coming together to create a family. Because really, unless you're having sex for that reason, it's just a pleasure thing. And
well, this is it.
That's like teaching the child how to drink.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, And if you give a child the keys to a car, they're going to think they're ready to drive it now. So going back to the example about my son wouldn't have been interested in anything like that until he was 18. But then he was informed at 16, okay, well, maybe 15 then. So that boy now, in his own mind, has taken 3 years off his innocence because of the law. Because the law states 16, But the Sexual Offences Act covers age 16 to 18 anyway. So you can still consent between those ages. You can have sex with somebody between those ages. They've consented. You can still go to jail for it because it can be classed as exploitation. These are the things children need to be taught. These are the things children need to be taught. The amount of people I know that's ended up on the sex offenders register just for having sex with somebody who they thought was the right age, or they had sex with somebody when they were drunk, they went home and regretted it. These are the kinds of things we need to be addressing. Not how to have sex, not how to choke your partner safely, not you're born in the wrong body, and even teaching the young children the correct terminology. If you're teaching children about vaginas, scrotums, penises, what are they going to see on the internet? You're going to be seeing the porn, So everything they say, it has no clout. Nothing. When they say this stuff safeguards or they're using this stuff for a reason, when you look into it, it's not there.
It's all counterintuitive.
Well, this is it. Like I said, I've been interviewed and people say to me, so do you disagree with the teaching of LGBT content? Absolutely not. No way. Don't disagree with it at all. If they taught the truth, if they taught the facts, if they taught everybody, the Kinsey scale has come from the sexual assault and rape of children, would people then be referencing the Kinsey scale? No, they wouldn't. I'm telling you they wouldn't. Because during my training, my RSE training, we pointed this out during that training. And everybody in that room were mortified. I took the book in the following week. And let me tell you something now. During that training, every slide with Kinsey on, they skipped through. They changed their view. They simply did not know. And this is a well-established organisation in the UK, the only accreditation in the UK, and they simply did not know. And that's changed now, the outlook of
so what would you say is the truth of the LGBT versus what they're teaching, which is the lies? Can you give an example?
I know the truth. I know the truth. So the truth is, this was never about gay people anyway. This has always been about paedophilia. Always been about paedophilia. You go back to Alfred Kinsey and the Kinsey scale. You look at Wardell Pomeroy, Harry Hay, who set up the LGBT movement. This has always been about paedophilia. Gay people have been used.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know. I think it was even the creator of the LGBT party that said, look, we want to claim it back because gay, lesbian, sorry, yeah, gay and lesbian is just your sexual preference. Everything else is just a perversion. Everything else is just an ideology. You know,
This
it's
is
got, yeah.
And this is what they're doing, so they're taking kinks and fetishes and bringing it into broad daylight under the guise of inclusivity. You only have to look at what's happened in the Pride marches over the last couple of years. When they were gay Pride, they were like a carnival. They were family friendly, and it was fun to look at as well. Now they've dropped the word gay and it's just Pride. You've got bondage gear, you got men being dragged along on leads. The lesbians are being kicked out because they don't like penises. It has gone insane. I can't say it's gone insane. This is what they wanted and this is what they planned. And until gay people, which a lot have recognised mine, they're being used, until everybody, I think it's mostly the straight people who've got a gay nephew who are more supportive of this. They're afraid to go against it because they think they're going against a member of their family. This is not the case.
It's just another division tactic, isn't it?
It is another division tactic, and this, we're going to see bloodbaths. If they're bringing this stuff in because in your name, parents are obviously going to attack that name. Do you know what I mean? So people need to ditch that.
Yeah, everyone's going to get tarred with the same brush.
Yes.
Although I have to say, it was purely by accident. My brother and I and a group of friends, we were going camping around the country, and we actually, we didn't mean to, we didn't realize it was on, but we ended up in a middle of a gay pride, and this would have been late 90s, early noughties. And I have to say, even then, there was a lot of children around, but you had a lot of young teenage, like 17 to 21, I suppose, rolling around on the floor, making out,
Oh.
And I said to my brother at the time, I said, they've got this opportunity to be proud, but all they're showing, all that came across to me was smut.
Yes.
And I actually poured my drink over one of them and said, cut it out, I've got kids here.
They say in love is love. Actually, you're working under lust.
Yes.
Now, there's a massive difference between love and lust. And when you're starting off on a sexual footing, then you're dealing with lust.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The honeymoon period.
Yeah. It's lust. And good things don't come from man. I'm speaking as a victim of the sexual revolution myself. I'm a single parent. And I should be waving the flag for independent women. I've achieved a lot while raising my children on my own, and one of them has additional needs. I should be doing the whole thing. But here I am now with a 19 and a 16-year-old. And I'm like, I understand how different my life would have been if I had a man here, how different things would have been for my sons. And I'm not the only person that says this. I've got another friend who's in the same situation as me, doing really well in her own life. She's got potential to do things, but even she is saying how different her family situation would have been, Like I said, I left school during a time where, your relationship starts off on sex, single mothers were promoted, and independent women. It was like the thing is, I didn't really see nuclear families at that time.
Well, this is all part of the New World Order, isn't it? It was to break up the family unit.
And this is why I'm so passionate about it and about changing things, because I'm not sat here as a pearl clutching Mary Whitehouse. I'm sat here as a kid from the streets. Nothing is too hot or too heavy for me. I've been in the Youth Offenders Institute. I have lived with hundreds of women damaged by this system. I'm not saying nothing, it wasn't women, they were children. Children damaged by the system. Hundreds and thousands of children going up for a forced adoption because these children were damaged and raped by the system. And like I said, I've been a porn watcher myself. I'm not, I am not proud. I'm being completely honest here. This is why I'm informed.
I think we're all guilty of that one.
I'm not coming from a place of perfection, I'm coming from a place of knowledge and understanding and changing things. It's vital we change things. My youngest son now is in a relationship, and I have taught him through Miriam Grossman, who is a child psychiatrist in America, through a presentation she's done for us here. I have taught him about his girlfriend's anatomy, about her immature cervix. He's seen an image of an immature cervix and a mature cervix, and he sees the difference. And he loves his girlfriend so much, he wants her to develop fully, internally as well as externally.
Well, this is it. I mean, a lot of love has to come down to respect.
Yes, yes. And this is
respect.
another thing, you know, I've also explained to my son, I've got one auntie and uncle, they've been together since they were 12. And then I've got my actual parents, and just absolute chaos, you know. And this is what I said to him, you know, I don't want to say his name live on thing, but I've said to him, you know, if you want a long-lasting relationship, if you really love her, you're going to hold on. You know, you're going to hold on. And they've watched his presentations together.
Well, that's
You know,
good.
they've seen the images.
It shows a level of maturity.
Yes.
So that's good.
You know, and they've seen the image of the cervix. And now my son knows exactly what lifestyle I've had. You know, he knows exactly. I've been in the youth offenders. He knows I've come from the streets. I don't hide nothing from my children. You start lying to your children, then that's when things go wrong, you know. But at a developmental stage, they learn things about me, you know, and my past. So when I speak to my children, again, I'm not coming from a place of, I'm not preaching.
No.
I'm not preaching. I'm sharing experience and concern. And what I see in this world, I just don't like. And like I said, I left school in 1999 believing all of this was right. That's just the way things are. But when you research things and you realize that we've been twisted, used, abused, it's the reason why I'm a single parent. You know, you can't allow this to go on. You really cannot allow this to go on, especially when they're targeting our 3-year-olds. You know, it doesn't get more serious than that. Now, there's a power grab of our children from age 3. We only have parental responsibility. What that means is we have access to our own children. So if we don't,
well, that's where this is why I don't like using the word parent, because parent is a state word where the parents the child.
Yeah, exactly.
Either the mother or the father.
Well, this they've given us now. We got parental responsibility. That only means we have access to our own children. We're not playing ball. They're coming after our parental responsibility, which means they're coming after our children. There's a very fine line here. Very fine line. You know, we've only got parental responsibility, and we need to exercise that. We are the only thing standing between them and our children. There's been talk over the years of lowering the age of consent. Read these people's documents, read their work. They will tell you themselves. Children are equal to adults in every way, including sexual activity.
This is a big thing in Germany as well, isn't it? Where I think I read where they're on about lowering the age of consent. I can't remember to what it was to, but it was
well, the World Health Organization document, the 2010 one that I'm discussing, the one they used for decision making, you can find this on our website. That was published in Germany.
Right.
That was published in Germany. So
and the other thing is that, you know, even like me and my wife and people of our age, we were subconsciously manipulated to this. When you look at things like the Disney films,
yes,
and with all the subliminal messaging within those kind of films, you know, so even we're victims. You know, even though I might not be a victim in the sense where you've been touched, but what you've been exposed to.
Yeah, we're all victims of the sexual revolution, you know. It's like me and my friend, we've done a podcast on this, you know, sharing our own experience, you know, being porn users and all sorts, you know, and like we were both wild childs. So if we are sat there saying stuff, this stuff is real, you know. We wouldn't. Why would our whole outlook on life change if it wasn't that serious? If it wasn't an assault on our children? Some 100%. Things are just too sick, you know. And when you actually discover what you've been helping bring along, you have to put your foot on the brakes, and you have to try really hard to try and turn that around. There's a lot of people out there, they don't understand the damage in their own lives, you know. I got people on my social media who are riddled with anxiety and depression, and then they're feeling great then when they're out with a bloke, And again, their anxiety, you know, and I know how this has been brought on. I know why this has been brought on, you know. I try educating people, but we can only do it for ourselves, you know. People aren't
that's
prepared
right.
to look at stuff.
You said
This,
you were looking, you would like to be able to teach what you know, but they're not giving you the opportunity to do that. Have you thought about doing it online?
yes. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And obviously in the home education groups as well. But with all the work we've got going on, it's really difficult to find time. So we're helping parents running tribunals against the government. We're helping them get reports done for their children. We're supporting family court proceedings. So we've got so much going on. We've got such a small group. So we were going to set up as an advocacy organisation, and that's what they prevented there. They prevented my work as a professional independent advocate. So what we've done is, at this moment in time, we've got this little mass exercise going on. We're actually training people online on advocacy right now. So advocacy, rights and representation. We're empowering the individual, and we're going to go flat out over the summer holidays on this. We're training 2 groups a week. So
Is this via your
simultaneously-
website?
Well, yes, we put out the marketing campaign now. I've been doing it through Facebook as a trial run. It's gotten so good. People in England want to jump on. People in Scotland want to jump on. So the marketing campaign's going out today. And we're training people to empower them, but we're also training people to train other people. So everybody's just going to get out there empowering, because an advocate is supported in legislation. We all advocate every single day, and we don't realise that if we put that title on ourselves, how much clout we would have in that situation. So this is a mass empowerment exercise. After this mass empowerment exercise, hopefully I can get stuck into what I enjoy, you know. So like I said, I've got the NSPCC studies that I'm ripping apart as well, if you could call them that. It took me 4 years to get them. But yeah, so I'm dying to get my teeth back into the criminological aspect and putting out videos to help safeguard the children. When we do presentations, I will give tips in my presentations as well. But yeah, this is something that I'm deeply passionate about, and it's easy. They have overcomplicated things in the education system for a sinister agenda. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Things are simple.
No, absolutely. Well, that sounds really good, and I hope that that's very successful, because we need this more now than we've ever needed, this kind of support, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because
Well, what we're doing, so a few of our followers, we've got children as young as 3. Obviously, a lot of them being taught correct terminology for their body parts, but we're counteracting that. So we've got children shouting, "No, privates are private," in the class. So even though the teacher's still carrying on with this teaching, children in that class are aware that something's not quite right here. You know, we're teaching children about groomers, and we've had no choice but to explain to children that sometimes men wear dresses and makeup and they groomed your teachers. We've got no choice.
no.
At the end of the day, they want to fight fire with fire. There is no room for maneuver on this. That, you know, we're drawing a line in the sand. It's not, this is not child's play. This is messing our children up. So
See, I was thinking, because it's only got like six subscribers, I think, but I started doing like a children's story thing. So I've got a puppet, a monkey, and he's called Milo the monkey. And basically, people would write in, say, right, could you do a story for my kids, and it would be tailored to them, and then I'd put it onto YouTube. But I was talking to another friend, Cassie, and she is the one that fronts the National Health Residents Association. But she's saying, oh, you should use that as a tool to, you know, whilst all these people are corrupting the minds of young children, you could do something similar to what you're saying,
counteracting, yeah,
and
yeah.
corrupt and get through to them in a positive way, and to say, no, you don't do this. And so perhaps maybe if I get time to do something like that, perhaps maybe I could do
that'd be
work
really
with you
fun.
on a story for young children on that topic.
That would be brilliant, because there is a book, there's actually a book out there that they're using for safeguarding. And this book is a story of a young boy who was being assaulted by his uncle. Now, throughout this book, you've got images of that child on the man's lap. You've got images of that child in bed with him. You've got images of that child with no clothes on, the man with no clothes on. And then on the page where they expose the abuse, they've got a matchstick man. So all the way through that book, now these children are seeing images of this adult and this child with no clothes on and everything else. And then on the most important page of all, the child becomes a matchstick man. That book should have only gone to page 4.
Yeah.
You know, so if you had a journalist say to me once, so what's your problem? Would you mind the children having a story about a mum and a dad instead of 2 mums? I said, what an absolutely ridiculous question. Why don't you bring me the book and we'll discuss the book? Don't ask me, would I be okay with a story of that nature? You show me that book. I want to see the images. There's a lot of psychology behind that. What an absolutely pathetic question to ask. You know, our argument is the psychological, emotional, and mental effect on our children. Therefore, it's going to be far more than words. And this is another thing with these drag story hour. It's not just the stories they will tell. They'll hold their book up, they'll read a bit, and they'll go, isn't that mean? It doesn't say that in the book.
No.
And you have just made all those children feel that that was mean. It doesn't say that in the book. So are they really just reading a story?
No.
You know? And don't get me started on the drag, would be here all day. But yeah, this is it. You know, they're not allowing us to challenge them. They're not allowing us to ask questions. I'm happy to debate any politician in this country, any academic in this country. You know, I don't know why they're so scared of me. They're all established. They all get paid for their work. They all get paid for their studies.
Because there's no accountability, is there?
That's exactly it. There's no accountability. However, we did achieve that in our court case. We did achieve accountability being placed on the head teacher. A lot of head teachers out there are unaware of this. So we've got a few going on their high horse and claiming you need to speak to Welsh Government. We've had to send them the legislation and the case law to educate them that they will be facing accountability. So on that front then, we're looking for assessment tools used on our children. When they cannot provide these assessment tools, then obviously it's the head teacher that faces accountability on that. So what we're finding is a lot of these head teachers are now allowing an exemption because they don't want to face accountability. So the Welsh Government placed it all on their heads. The High Court has reinforced that, and we are using that to our advantage. These teachers, I don't get pleasure out of going after them, but they did not gift us the time of looking into what we were saying. They are safeguarding our children. They fail to do that. They are negligent.
It's the same with counsellors and stuff like that, though. You know, Thetford Council, where well, not me personally, but where they've gone to say, look, things which are happening, which shouldn't be happening, here's the evidence. Please read it, please research it and get back to me. But they never do.
No.
It just gets filed in the bin.
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. And but that again, like I think it's a 29-page document or 30-page document. I've got this list, and I show everybody in my speeches. So on this front page of this list is 29 convictions of counsellors. And then when I'm telling people that all these people were convicted and convictions for child sex abuse is less than 1%, they're shocked. But these people on this list are counsellors. But then somebody takes the sheet off me and it goes on and on and on and on and on. And these only got to 2017. I haven't got a list newer than that. And they are all counsellors, mayors. They are all people in public office who have been convicted of sex abuse. So I've got a link for every single crime as well.
I was going to say, if you send me any links that you would like me to put in the video description to this, so people can click on, please do email them over to me, and I'll put those, make sure they go in the video description.
Brilliant, because this is what we get a lot of as well. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Well, they are.
Well, this is the big thing, and this is kind of how they got away with the last 4 years, really, is that many people, I mean, I would say I woke up around 9/11, so that kind of opened my eyes to the reality of what goes on. But, you know, people just can't get their head around the systemic evil that runs the show. And so it's, I don't know if it's willful ignorance or they're just not prepared to have their whole world image shattered, and so they
I
just
think,
deny it.
no, I think what it is, unless they have fallen foul to the system, you got no chance. Unless they have fallen foul to the system in one way or another, they're gonna believe in it. So I come from a family of my auntie and uncle have been fostering. I've got 2 adopted cousins going on over 30 years, and here I am fighting forced adoption. So and there's always been fostering and adoption in my family, and here I am then fighting forced adoption. So I was also, when I was a youth offender mind, my own background, I always had a problem with women because my mother was quite abusive. So I always had a problem with women, never understood why social services didn't take me. And I kind of had an issue with that. So when I first went to youth offenders and I could see girls going on their last visit to say goodbye to their baby, I genuinely believed that child was going to a better life. But it took me 6 weeks to learn what was going on in the system. And that was in 2001. And to tell you the truth, I'd always been quite scared of the institution, especially being a single parent, And I would try and go on the edge of it. So my work, I'd concentrate on youth justice, I'd concentrate on prison reform. I would try but the institution kept falling on my lap, kept falling on my lap. And when the sex education came and my 2 paths then collided, I just saw this as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to address the system in a mainstream way because it is so dark, dirty, and evil. It is petrifying when
It
you know
doesn't,
what goes on.
especially when you come to realise that establishments, organisations like the social services, they actually have a quota
Yes.
of how many children to remove from families to make it a viable business.
Well, this is it.
Now that alone should ring alarm bells.
I've did a bit of research in 2018 because one of my very close relative of mine was taken from birth. We went in back though. He was taken from birth, did a bit of research. And the first fostering agency in this country was set up by 2 social workers. And I think they sold it for something like 11 billion. And by the time they sold it, it was the 2nd largest in the UK. I was also looking online as well, and there was fitness to practice panels. And so when a social worker has sat one of these panels, the outcomes are published online, but only for 6 months at a time. There was like 240 odd there in July 2018, and that was only for a 6-month period. Fitness to practice panels for social workers. There was a massive turnover of staff. I couldn't find statistics for Wales, but for England, 800 social workers had left in 1 year, and there was no proof they'd gone to another role within social work. So what's actually going on here? We know what's going on here. It's pretty serious, isn't it?
It's just satanic, really.
And they've got a horrific power. Do you know social workers don't even do child sex abuse on their degree?
Do they not?
No. I've had social workers doing a master's degree in criminology with me so they could be better in their role. In actual fact, my mentor in university, Dr. Sue Roberts, who was a well-established academic, she was a social worker. That's why she's now a criminologist.
Wow.
And she's very good at her work. Very, very good at her work. So these paths don't even cross properly. And I first discovered the lack of training in social services when my relative was taken. And I had pulled out my qualifications to show, what I'd been doing. And she said, I got that certificate. It was a 6-hour free course in the youth offending team through the council. And you've got the same certificate. Really? This shouldn't be happening. Your certificates should be stamped and sealed and, but no, just little courses here and there, a couple of grape sandwiches and you're qualified, off you go.
It's the difference between doing like an open university course and doing a Udemy course online, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's not the same. It's not comparable at all.
No, not at all. Not in the slightest. And everything's very controlled. It's all very controlled. They don't want you to know much, When with my education, what I learned mostly was what they think compared to what actually happens.
Yeah.
So that's what my education was all about. What they think compared to what really happens. and Googling a few posh words to understand what they mean. That was my education all the way through. Like, quite shocking, really. Because I've come across some academics who are wonderful. They put their heart and soul into their work. They believe what's happening on the ground is all roses because they've written these policies. But what actually happens in practice is quite different,
Oh, yeah.
So you can have the best academics in the world with a really good heart, thinking they're doing well, but policy and practice are two different things.
No, 100%. Well, listen, I'm very grateful for people such as yourself, and a shout out to Jeff Mealing, my friend here in Thetford, who's also so passionate about protecting the kids.
Yeah,
He's
Jeff
always,
has been here. Jeff has stayed in my
yeah,
house, Jeff
oh,
has.
brilliant. Okay, so yeah, so people like that I truly, truly commend, and I'm just so grateful that there are people like you who have got the children's back. We need so much more awareness on this, and we need so many more people to join the cause. I have always said to Jeff that I don't necessarily agree with always protesting in London. I think you have a better impact if you do it locally. Everything that we've ever achieved here in Thetford is because we've done it on a local level.
Yes.
London, for example, since 2020, there's been a protest there every weekend, all the time,
We don't
and
do
it just becomes noise, background noise. It's like if you live near a train station, you get used to it. There's no impact anymore. So I'd love to see these kind of things come into Thetford, Norwich, Cambridge, all the smaller cities where people aren't so aware of this.
Well, a ranger will come. Your ranger will come.
Well, I'll certainly
I'll
certainly come and film it. That's kind of where my strength is reporting on it. Organizing, not so much, but I'd be more than happy to come to those venues to do that. I just don't want to do London anymore.
Yeah. We do in London in September, but we only do a Wednesday. So Prime Minister's questions,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Cardiff, we only do on a Tuesday for First Minister's questions. What's the point of shutting outside an empty building? And also, if you can get the people to have time off work and keep the children off school, it's an even bigger impact again then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We've got two events on the 9th of July. One outside the Senate in the afternoon, 1 p.m. And then we're outside the BBC at 9 p.m. because we're going to do a PCPW broadcast. So we're going to be projecting the news that they do not.
Oh, wicked. Yeah, that's good.
So that'll be interesting. Keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, thank you very much for talking with me. Really enjoyed our conversation, and I wish you and the work that you do every success.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Brilliant. Well, I hope everyone else has enjoyed listening to our conversation. It's not the nicest of conversations, but it's a conversation that has to be had. But until next time, take care, God bless, and I will speak to you again soon.